Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jashoda Nandana Raja Chanda Ranjana Shoda Nandana Raja Chanda Ranjana Jamuna Tira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jashoda Nandana Raja Chanda Ranjana Jashoda Nandana Raja Chanda Ranjana Jamuna Tira Bono Chahari Jamuna Tira Bono Chahari Jamuna Tira Bono Chahari Jamuna Tira Bono Chahari Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha, Govinda Radha, Govinda Radha, Govinda Shri Radhe. Jai Sachinandana, Gaura Hare Jaya, Jai Sachinandana, Gaura Hare. Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva. Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya, Stotra Satishi, Shrimad Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki, Prem Ziko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advait Gadadhar, Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki, Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath, Chamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhana Ki, Vrindavan Dham Ki, Mayapur Dham Ki, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki, Jamuna Maya Ki, Ganga Maya Ki, Tulsi Devi Ki, Bhakti Devi Ki, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki, Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Transcendental Book Distribution Ki, Gaur Premanande, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Mastaya Vatale. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Mastaya Lakshmani Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvashesha. So welcome to the morning class, Srimad Bhagavatam. It's been broadcast on Facebook Dublin Krishna Temple and also on Innisrath also. So thank you everybody for joining in, and it's very nice that we're continuing these classes. I think it's gone on for 2 or 3 months now. So let's hope we can continue in a nice strong vein and even attract more people to hear. Mainly because we're on a the Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. It is the supreme and the most purified. It's Krishna himself, basically, who's appeared at this time, so that we can get some love of God in our lives. And it is a freedom from the confusion, or sometimes Prabhupada used that word, the vicissitudes of this age. So much confusion, so much difficulty, so much problems that will come. Amanda Samanda Mateo, we're in the heart of Kali. Actually, it's probably not even the heart of it. It's going to get worse. I mean, it's bad enough as it is. But yet we have this one. Well, we have several, but we have this major way in which we can actually become free from the entanglements of this age by giving submissive oral reception to the messages of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We don't have to do anything. We just have to learn to be submissive and just hear what is being spoken. Then we will be able to enter into a kind of a trance, in that sense, to be, become absorbed in transcendental sound vibration. The alternative is to become absorbed in material sound vibration, and that has been our tendency for the past million years. I don't know anybody else, but I think there's been quite a few lifetimes for me anyway, and that's been my tendency, is to try to take shelter in the material energy. So in this lifetime, I'm trying as much as possible to make sure I'm taking shelter in the spiritual energy, and to associate with devotees who are in that situation as well, who want to take shelter of the spiritual energy and the spiritual sound vibration. And that actually takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of desire, and it takes a lot of that word austerity. We call it austerity, but actually it's in its real form. It's nectar. It's just because we're tasting the sugar candy in a jaundiced condition that it's not nectar, or it's austere. But the more we eat the candy, the more it will actually, the taste will be there, and then we will do it naturally, and then we will have it. It'll be a normal condition of our life to hear Bhagavatam, and that's the submission or the surrender to the Bhagavatam, just not to our own mental whatever, not to whatever's going on in the world today or was going on in the world at some other time, but just to the message of the Bhagavatam. That's what the surrender means. And to become knowledgeable about of the Bhagavatam. But it's by constant hearing, and by hearing from the devotees, realized souls, hearing from all the devotees, because when a devotee speaks on the Bhagavatam, Krishna is there. Krishna empowers that person to speak what is necessary for us to hear. So that's just a little introduction. So now we'll just get on with the text and purport. So many wonderful texts and purports. I hope my introduction was based on these texts and purports. So today we're reading from Canto 1, Chapter 7, text number 9. And I'll just read the Sanskrit and then the English. Shaunika uvacha savai nivritti nirata sarvato pekshako muni kashyava brihatam etam atmarama samabhyasat. So did anyone hear any word in there that was kind of rang a bell?
Say it again.
I'll say it again. Shaunakuvacha savai nivritti nirata sarvatro pekshatomani kasyacha brahitam etam atmarama samabhyasat. I gave you a little hint there. I emphasized the word atmarama. We're coming up very soon to this famous verse, the Atmarama verse, which will be given tomorrow by His Grace Tulsi Priya Prabhu. Jai. Shoniku vacha. Shri Shoniku asked, Sa he, Vai, of course, Nivati, on the path of self-realization. Nirata, always engaged. Sarvatra, in every respect. Upekshaka, indifferent. Muni, sage. Kasya, for what reason? Va, or. Brihatam, vast. Etam, this. Atmarama, one who is pleased in himself. Sambyasat, undergo the studies. So the translation, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Shonika asked Sutta Goswami, Sri Sukadev Goswami was already on the path of self-realization, and thus he was pleased with his own self. So why did he take the trouble to undergo the study of such a vast literature? Purport. For the people in general, the highest perfection of life is to cease from material activities and be fixed on the path of self-realization. Those who take pleasure in sense enjoyment, or those who are fixed in material bodily welfare work, are called karmis. Out of thousands and millions of such karmis, one may become an atmarama by self-realization. Atma means self, and arama means to take pleasure. Everyone is searching after the highest pleasure, but the standard of pleasure of one may be different from the standard of another. Therefore, the standard of pleasure enjoyed by the karmis is different from that of the atmaramas. The atmaramas are completely indifferent to material enjoyment in every respect. Srila Sukadev Goswami had already attained that stage, and still he was attracted to undergo the trouble of studying the great Bhagavatam literature. This means that Srimad Bhagavatam is a postgraduate study even for the Atmaramas, who have surpassed all the studies of Vedic knowledge. I wanted to speak about the Bhagavatam at the beginning just because that's what the purport is saying, that even the Atmaramas want to take shelter of the Bhagavatam. Even though they're self-satisfied, still that's what they do. They take pleasure in hearing. So because we're on such another phenomenal section of the Bhagavatam, there was a couple of days ago, there was a purport. Srila Prabhupada explained about the nature of the living entity, and I thought it was worth going back on that because we're living entities. That's who we are. We're the soul. We're the servant of Krishna, and we're stuck in the material energy. So we're trying to get out of that. Prabhupada really emphasized that a few days ago. How the soul is a thinking, feeling, and willing person. He's not some sort of non-thinking, non-feeling, non-willing energy. No, he's a thinking, feeling, willing person. He's thinking, feeling, willing in the material world at the moment, but we're trying to get free of that entanglement so that we can actually think and feel and will from a spiritual perspective. So I thought I'd just go over a section here from a few days ago. The living entity misunderstands himself to be a material product. We're not a material product. This means that the present perverted way of thinking, feeling, and willing under material conditions is not natural for him. But he has his normal way of thinking, feeling, and willing. The living being, in his original state, is not without thinking, willing, and feeling power. It is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that the actual knowledge of the conditioned soul is now covered by nescience. Thus the theory that a living being is absolute impersonal Brahman is refuted herein. This cannot be, because the living entity has his own way of thinking in his original unconditional state also. The present conditional state is due to the influence of the external energy, which means that the external energy takes the initiative while the Supreme Lord is aloof. So the real point I'm trying to get to there is that we're all people, it's we're thinking, feeling, and willing. So we have that tendency, we desire. So we can't forget that every individual is like that. So therefore we should pay respect to every individual. Not because every individual is only thinking, feeling, willing, but we're told because not only is the individual there, but the super soul is there as well. Krishna is there. So Krishna is empowering that living entity to exist. The living entity doesn't exist without Krishna, but he's also non-different from Krishna and different at the same time. So every person that we meet, we have to offer respect to in different ways. That there's different ways that's explained in the Shastra how we do that. But because we are that thinking, willing and feeling person, then we have to realize that we're that for other people also, you know. So in a certain way, we shouldn't make it difficult for other people to be able to deal with us, because we're all here in this material world together. Still go back to a class from a long time ago, a couple of months ago, when Madhav was saying about that, is that we're, you know, we are by nature, we're tiny, we're soul, we're insignificant. So if we are humble, then we actually can relate to other people, we can hear other people, and even more so, we can actually love other people. That is a stage that we have to get to. We have to love other people despite their differences, or because of their differences, because they're different from us. So we have to be able to understand other people. We may not always be able to work with other people, but we should try our hardest to try to do so. Because ultimately, we're all working for Krishna. We're trying to please Krishna. So that's why the emphasis is on on the individual. Because the individual is not trying to please himself. The individual in matter is trying to get material objects for so-called enjoyment. Not only objects, but on a subtle level, the mind is trying to get fame, profit, adoration, you know. That's the reason that we're here, because we don't want to give that fame, profit, and adoration to Krishna. We're trying to take a certain amount of it for ourselves. We're trying to, from others. So we're trying to get this from other people, and that's when we run into difficulty. Because other people, like if they're in the material plane, they're trying to get that for themselves also, you know. So you have a whole competition of everyone who's trying to get fame, profit, and adoration for themselves. That's the material world. And sometimes one can get fame, profit, and adoration from somebody else if that other person, you're giving them something, or they're getting something off you. So they'll give you this profit, adoration, and fame. If you do it for them, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. We're both wonderful people. But we're not. Devotees understand that we're tiny, insignificant living entities. We're significant in that we're servants of God. So that's where the respect comes from. But our entanglement in material nature isn't a very palatable thing for ourselves, nor is it for anybody else. So if we're going around, or if I'm going around trying to get people to, you know, glorify my false ego because I'm such a great person, then I'm in the wrong shop, you know. You know, I might if I have lots of money or something like that, I might get other people to pretend that they think I'm a great person. You know, if I'm able to capture temporarily some of the resources of the material world, and have people envious of that, or think I'm great because I have that, that I might get people to say, "Oh, you're a great person because of that," or some fame or whatever. But actually, there's no fame there because it's so temporary. It lasts for such a short time, and it is like actually going out into the I was up on an Ishrath there yesterday when we had our social distance meeting that went on between 6 individuals from different families, of course, but no more than 6. And it's like going around to where all the peacock stool is and just getting it and rubbing it on ourselves, you know. You know, would that be a nice thing to do you think? Or actually, no, to go down where Tim's pigs are on the way out of Gagelum, and we just go into the yard. We try to shoo the pigs away, get the stool and push it all over us, you know, lather ourselves in that stool, and then go out and say, hey, here I am. You know, what do you think? What do you think? So that's what it's like, you know. And you can imagine Krishna having a super soul in us having to deal with that. It's not really very palatable, is it? But as individuals, we have to take that into account because we've been doing it for millions of lifetimes. And just cause we happen to dress ourselves up in a certain way now or adhere to a specific spiritual system, just because we do that, we think that suddenly we're devoid of that. And just look at how many people are trying to become devotees at the moment in Ireland because of our wonderful example. Is there many? No, there's not. Oh, it's their fault because they don't see how great we are. No. It's our fault, actually, because, you know, they don't see how great we are because we're not great. So these are facts that we have to take on board. But there's not much we can do with somebody else except to give them a good example. That's all we can do. So that's why I'm getting onto this whole point about thinking, feeling, and willing, the individual soul. We have to work on ourselves first and foremost. You know, if there's some difficulty going on, we have to work on ourselves first and foremost. Why? Because we have to act in such a way that we're not trying to please ourselves, but we're trying to please Krishna. So how can we do that? We can hear the scripture. So in the scripture here is talking about what? What's the famous word that I mentioned at the start in the verse? Atmarama. What is an Atmarama? Somebody who's satisfied within. So we have to get that satisfaction within. So I thought I would take a section from the Bhagavad Gita because there's some amazing examples of how we can get to that stage, or actually at least how we can work. And it's coming from the 5th canto or 5th chapter of the Action in Krishna Consciousness, Karma Yoga. Activities performed in full knowledge strengthen one's advancement in real knowledge. So we have to get this we would like to get this real knowledge. So Krishna says that mere renunciation alone does not purify the heart. But by acting and understanding that everything belongs to Krishna, everything is Krishna's, and therefore we're using everything in Krishna's service. There is a magnificent verse from Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sandhya. It goes like this: Prapanka Chikataya Buddha Harisambandha Vastunak Mamuksha bi Parijagyo Vairagyam Falgo Katyate. And I'll give you the translation. When persons eager to achieve liberation renounce things related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking them to be material, their renunciation is called incomplete. So it goes back to the other verse, which is utilize yuktam vairagyam uchite. We use everything in Krishna's service. So that's the first thing we have to understand, that everything actually belongs to Krishna. So that when we use everything in Krishna's service, then we're satisfied. That is the happy position. So we're using everything to make Krishna happy and not to make us happy. In the verse that we're on today, it was really highlighting how the living entity gets covered by the material energy. So we are covered by the material energy, but what we have to do is use the material energy in Krishna service. Instead of using the material energy to try to please ourselves, which we can't do, instead we use everything to try to please Krishna, because Krishna owns everything. We don't own anything. We can't renounce anything. But anything that's there, we use it in Krishna's service. Whether it is a pole on a polytunnel, where it's plastic on a polytunnel, where it's a screw on a polytunnel, whether it is a lock on a door, whether it is a seat in Krishna's house, everything has to be used in Krishna's service, and Krishna owns everything. So therefore, we actually have to also remember that we're working in Krishna's domain, you know. But that's not a drag, you know. That's a wonderful position. I was saying yesterday, one of the things which I was saying was that one of the things I was saying was we are very in a privileged position where that Krishna has given us the position to try to perform service for him. We're not, you know, I'm just saying this for myself, we're not any great sheikhs. We're living entities who've been caught by Maya, and we're trying our best to go out to leave. Somehow or other, by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, we're doing something. We're trying to do something in Krishna's service. We're trying to do something to please Krishna and to please Prabhupada. That's what we're trying to do. So that should be our main idea, not to please ourselves, but to please Prabhupada. You know, your love for me will be shown by how much you cooperate together to keep this institution going when I've left. So this sense of love has to come from us. Prabhupada has given us this incredible opportunity. Please understand that. It's an incredible opportunity. We cannot waste it. You know, we cannot waste 1 minute of this opportunity. We have to use every second of every minute of every hour to what does Prabhupada want? He wants us to become Krishna conscious ourselves, to preach to ourselves, and to preach to others. That's what he wants us to do. So that will bring us his mercy. That will bring us Prabhupada's mercy. And then we will be able to act in Krishna consciousness. That's what this whole verse is about, acting in Krishna consciousness. So as I said earlier, you know, whatever it is that we're doing, we're in a very fortunate position, and whatever we're doing it for Krishna. We're doing all of these things for Krishna, to make Krishna happy, or to please Krishna, should I say. And we do that by serving the devotees. That is a very, very advanced position to be in, you know, because again, we're servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. Because that takes the kind of the pressure off, you know. You know, we're serving. It takes the pressure off, you know, in this whole situation that we're in, to actually to serve the devotees and to serve the mission of Srila Prabhupada, wherever that mission is going on. So we're just taking a small portion of that, but we're doing it with the devotees. So if we can all do it together cooperatively, we can make a huge difference on this planet. When I was in Ishrat yesterday, I just saw this is an unbelievable place. It is absolutely unbelievable. There's no place like it. I've traveled around Ireland quite a lot. I haven't traveled the world that much, but I've traveled around Ireland quite a lot. And there really isn't a place like that, with a beautiful island, beautiful walkways, beautiful lawns, beautiful trees, you know, beautiful building, you know, huge potential. And Krishna has dropped that in our arms, in our hands, and he's saying, preach Krishna consciousness. And yesterday was also a landmark day in Dublin, because we chose the name for the future centre, which is just outside Dublin, which will be an absolute, we will be sending people up to Inishrath non-stop practically. We have also got it within our means to bring. We yesterday we got news that one devotee, a wonderful devotee, Parashuram Prabhu, is donating a Sankirtan van for us, and that we can go from Inishrath to Dublin to perform Sankirtan Yogya and bring people back with us even. These are things that Krishna is giving to us because of the cooperation that we've done up till now. And during the lockdown, we've done a lot of service to try to get ourselves prepared to set this whole trap, up to bring people into Krishna consciousness. So yesterday was a hallmark day there too. So we're in a very, very fortunate position, and Krishna has he has given us this to actually to work with. He's actually lent it to us because he's allowing us to make advancement in this time. So whatever service that we're doing now, it's allowing us to make advancement to go back to the spiritual world. But the spiritual world is here and now. Ihe yasa herir dasa, jivan mukta sa uchite. That this, we can be self-realized even while in this body. And in fact, we have that as a mission to become self-realized in this lifetime, to become Atmarama. And there is. Let me just read an amazing purport that Srila Prabhupada speaks about this. It's I'll read the verse first. That one who works in devotion, who is a pure soul, and who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. Prabhupada in this purport. This is memorable. Yeah. Because one who works in Krishna consciousness is servant to all. He is very dear to everyone. And because everyone is satisfied by his work, he is pure in consciousness. Because he is pure in consciousness, his mind is completely controlled. And because his mind is controlled, his senses are also controlled. Because his mind is always fixed on Krishna, there is no chance of his being deviated from Krishna. Nor is there a chance that he will engage his senses in matters other than the service of Krishna, other than the service of the Lord. And listen to this. He does not like to hear anything except topics relating to Krishna. He does not like to eat anything which is not offered to Krishna. And I love this last one. And he does not wish to go anywhere if Krishna is not involved. I just think the way Prabhupada put that. He does not like to go anywhere unless Krishna is involved. Unless Krishna is involved, I'm not going there. No, is Krishna involved? Okay, yeah, I'll go. He's not involved? No, I'm not going. I just love the way that's put, And then a man of controlled senses cannot be offensive to anyone. So that's one of the, for me, it's one of the real standout purports in the Bhagavad Gita. So Srila Prabhupada, he wanted us to surrender to that mentality. That's what he wants us to do. He wants us to surrender. He wants us to say, Krishna, I am yours. Just use me in your service. I am yours. I don't want anything else. I just please use me in your service. You know, do with me as you want. And that's where that's really, as I think any of us who've ever experienced it, that's where all the fun begins. Because we were having a little discussion about humility on one of our threads on Facebook, and one thing Vijay Govinda Prabhu said, which I really resonated with me, was that that humility is a gift. And in my own experience, that when I'm involved in doing something Krishna conscious, and something is achieved, something that's successful, we've had some real good successes along the way. But at that time, you kind of feel more humble. It's not saying, yeah, look at me, look what I did. No, but that's a real time that success is that feeling of humility that Krishna allows us to experience. Because we see that we did nothing at all, you know. It's just Krishna was working through us, and he makes us happy because he's worked through us, you know. And we see who we are. We're a tiny, insignificant servant of Krishna, you know, but we're so happy to be in that situation because we're a servant of Krishna. So Krishna gives us that vision, you know. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena. You know, it's like this is the vision of love, and then we see, you know, we see everybody. Do you ever get that? A lot of materialists. The reason they take an intoxication is because they let their guard down. And do you ever talk to somebody who's taken some intoxication and, you know, I love you, oh, I think you're great, you know. They do that because somehow or other in the intoxicated state, their kind of loving tendency will come through because they want to love everybody. Of course, then ultimately when it's not reciprocated, then suddenly, I hate you, I'm going to kill you. After the lust comes the anger. But you know, but at the same time, I'm not, you know, the living entity in its pure state is a lover of God, wants to love God and wants to be loved as well. That's the state. So that is a gift from Krishna, this humility that he allows us, this loving feeling towards others. And that's how, and Prabhupada is putting it in this point as the Atmaram, is that we are happy within. That's how he describes it. You know, that happiness is the happiness within. And then there's that verse about Iha Yasya Harer Dasya. Karmana manasajira nikalasvapyavastasu jivan muktasa uchade. A person acting in Krishna consciousness, or in other words, in the service of Krishna, with his body, mind, intelligence, and words, is liberated person even within this material world, although he may be engaged in many so-called material activities. So Prabhupada is asking us to come up to that level, you know, just to be within, absorbed in Krishna. If we're not in union with the divine, this is 5.12, Prabhupada says, the steady devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the results of the activities to me, whereas a person who's not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labour, becomes entangled. So that feeling of being in touch with the divine, of being in union with divine, what that actually means is that we're acting not on the platform of false ego. We're not acting out of some material or self-centered motivation. We have somehow or other got onto the platform of acting for Krishna, because this is action in Krishna consciousness. This is the self-realized state. I'm trying to give the Atmarama state that Prabhupada wants us to get towards, allows us to function spontaneously for Krishna. And even studying some of the motivational books of, groups of devotees working together, which have been recommended to me by some of my spiritual mentors. Devotees, when they're working well with each other, can move mountains. They can achieve incredible things. That's because they have trust in each other. They know each person is acting just for Krishna. They have that faith and that trust that it's there. So it is a totally enviable position, but the way we do it is ourselves to purify our own existence, because we cannot purify somebody else. We cannot do it. And we had a purport a few weeks ago about freedom, how Narada Muni is free. So Prabhupada talks about freedom here in it's in page 236 in the purport. Let me just find it here. Sorry. Yeah. It's just I'll just read some of it. This, reading Prabhupada's purports. What more do you want? You've got a Bhagavatam class and reading Prabhupada's purports. So, the embodied soul lives in the city of 9 gates. The activities of the body, or the figurative city of the body, are conducted automatically by its particular modes of nature. The soul, although subjecting himself to the conditions of the body, can be beyond those conditions if he so desires. Owing only to forgetfulness of his superior nature, he identifies with the material body and therefore suffers. By Krishna consciousness, he can revive his real position and thus come out of embodiment. Therefore, when one takes to Krishna consciousness, one at once becomes completely aloof from bodily activities. In such a conditioned life in which his deliberations are changed, he lives happily within the city of 9 gates. The living entity in his conditioned stage identifies himself with the body, but when he identifies himself with the Lord within himself, he becomes just as free as the Lord, even while in the body. So that's the part I wanted to get to. The living entity in his conditioned state identifies himself with the body. That's what we were. But when he identifies himself with the Lord within himself, when he recognizes the supersoul within, he becomes just as free as the Lord, even while in the body. Therefore, a Krishna conscious person is free from both outer and inner activities of the material body. So that's where this freedom is, because then we can really act on the platform of thinking, feeling, and willing. We can really be ourselves. That's what I'm saying, is that what we're trying to get to is that situation where we're not self-conscious, but because we have done the work on ourselves, we are just acting for Krishna spontaneously, out of love for Krishna. It's out of spontaneous love for Krishna we're acting. We're maybe not on that platform, but Prabhupada keeps on pointing us in that direction. If we want to make advancement in spiritual life, these are the things that we need to be doing. We need to be constantly regulating ourselves, acting in Krishna consciousness with the best mentality possible, and we do that by studying the books, hearing the words of our spiritual master, acting according to the instructions of the devotees, and working together in Krishna consciousness. Sometimes I feel that we think we're. This is something I've observed. One of the reasons why we don't function well together is because we think we've got so much time. We really don't have so much time. We're in a serious war with Maya. I don't know how to put that any plainer. And yet we just kind of speak, as though we've loads of time. No, I'm not working with you. You're no good, or you're this person, you're that person. As though we had loads of time to choose these kind of things. We don't. We don't, because we're only here for a very short time and we'll be moved on. We have an incredible opportunity You know, by the way, I'm not speaking towards anybody here. I'm speaking really towards myself here. And I'm just saying, I'm seeing this, the temporariness of this material situation, and I'm trying to make the best use of where Prabhupada is, you know, and Krishna has got me to this level, and somehow or other it hasn't kicked me away. I'm still here among the devotees. I'm still trying to work. Even if we haven't really got very far, at least we're still here, you know, still here. That's always a good sign, you know. But who knows when Krishna will use us? Who knows? But we cannot be profligate with the time that Krishna's given us. And Krishna is time. In his time, he can do. I mean, I suppose I am. To be honest with you, I'm actually a little motivated, a lot motivated. But I'm motivated that I just want to see things happen nicely for Krishna. It's maybe a big material. It's maybe there's a whole material desire of why I want that. What's the reason for it? But anytime I've seen things going really well, there is such a buzz in that. There's such an incredible energy. You really feel as if you're on the spiritual world, you know. So I suppose you could say experiencing a higher taste. But we cannot be profligate with this time. We need to use every second, every minute in doing service for Radha Govinda, because 30 years, 40 years time, we'll probably all be gone. But Radha Govinda will be there. And Radha Govinda will have in front of them devotees who are willing to do service, you know. And we don't want to be looking down, you know, thinking, oh boy, I had such a chance. I missed my chance. Like, Ireland is way. I mean, I was looking at the plan for Mayapur the other day, which is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's vision, and all the great sages, their vision. They're building a city, 50,000 people. You know, they have Prabhupada Way. They're building beautiful, like they're putting a £50 million, £100 million church there. You know, we're kind of working on a smaller project. But Krishna, Prabhupada, this is Prabhupada wanted. He wanted this in every town and village of the world. So it's not that we're less valuable because we're not working directly on that project. It's said that we should try to help that project, of course. But it's non-different. And we're trying to spread Krishna consciousness in our Prabhupada Desh, which is Ireland. There's no need to go into other places. You can stay where you are and make one person Krishna conscious. You know, every day go out and give one book to one person, or ring up some person, or try to make one person more Krishna conscious. Try to make, starting with ourselves, starting with number one, with ourselves. Charity begins at home. So that's why I'm getting back to this Atmarama verse. I'm going to finish here now. We have this incredible verse in 2:16 or 5:16. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. And then there's this amazing verse again. Yehi samsparshaya bhoga dukayona evate avanta vanta. Sorry, 245. I used to know this verse off by heart. Adanta vanta kantayana tesho ramate buddha. That's an intelligent person who does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses, so Sanakunti. Such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them then. And then another, just one which we really have to, before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. So that's... He is well situated and happy in this world. That's what Atmarama means. You know, I'm bringing Atmarama just for ourselves, what we need to be aiming towards. So we have to be able to be free from the forces within, the forces of desire and anger. So, but here's the encouragement. That's the kind of the negative line. That's what we have to really guard against, because Maya's going to use that anytime she can. It's a war. Remember, she's trying to weaken the troops, and we're trying to strengthen the army, and bring people here to Krishna consciousness. One whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the supreme, and ultimately he attains the supreme. Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the supreme. So the welfare work. We have work on ourselves. That's the biggest welfare work, working on ourselves, as Prabhupada is explaining to her. We can control the forces of desire and anger, and therefore we're able to perform welfare work. We're able to please Krishna. So the three messages that comes from this is we have to control the, then we have to also surrender, and we have to perform devotional service. We have to please Krishna. And I'll just finish with a verse and a section of a purport that I put on the Dublin community this morning. It says, actually, I'm going to read a purport. I'm going to read a couple of purports. This human form of life is a chance to be trained to be agreeable to the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To bring about this training in society is the mission of the Krishna Consciousness movement. It is necessary for the leaders of the Krishna Consciousness movement to start educational institutions in different parts of the world to train children at 5 years old. So you see there, it's not just in India, but in different parts of the world. Okay, sorry. That's Prabhupada wanted that. And then this is the verse that I was going to... Only persons who constantly engage in welfare activities for others, or for other living entities, can reach the Vaikuntha planets. That's the verse. So this is what we're doing on Govinda Dweep. This is what we're doing in Panchatattva Dham, and also which we will be doing in the Govinda's eco-village. Purport. A Krishna conscious person, a Krishna conscious being, is always engaged in planning how to take all of suffering humanity back home, back to Godhead. Okay, I'll repeat that. A Krishna conscious being is always engaged in planning how to take all of suffering humanity back home, back to Godhead. Prabhupada says, even if one is not successful in reclaiming all the fallen souls back to Godhead, still, because he is Krishna conscious, his path to Vaikuntha is open. So three things. We have to control ourselves, force of anger, force of desire. We have to surrender to Krishna, so that we're acting only for Krishna. And then we have to perform devotional service, which is welfare activities for all the living entities. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Sorry if I didn't get through, bored you, or said something which wasn't according to Shastra. But thank you for tolerating me and for hearing. My goal was at least to keep us firmly fixed at the principles of Krishna consciousness, of hearing and chanting, and then performing activities. Okay, so if there's any comments, any questions, you've got 1 minute or 30 seconds. There's my clock ticking in the background. Sankirtan Yogi Ki. Hare Krishna.